I'm Elizabeth Thelen. Welcome to the Whitewater University Innovation Center, and I said it the right way. Our marketing person is standing in the back. Hi, Christina, and she's also a tenant here and a graduate of UW. How many people have been here before? Okay, and so that means a good chunk of you have not, so welcome. Isn't it amazing? Like you come out here and you're like, where, what? And so that happens too with our students and faculty. And it's beautiful. If you ever have to stop in and have a cup of coffee and sit down, you may do that, as long as there's not an event going on. But this was funded with the Economic Development Agency through the city and the Economic Development Group at the City of Whitewater, as well as the university. So I can't say public-private partnership. It was a public-public partnership with private money now with startups. We have it's turned into a mixed use. It's been around since 2011. I've been here just a little over a year. Have worked with UW-Whitewater though, and colleagues in the city of Whitewater for years. I've been in economic development. I worked at Milwaukee 7 for quite some time, Water Council Energy Center. So I come from startup and entrepreneurship. And really the word innovation is in our name. So who wants to just give me a word or two? What is innovation to you? Somebody just shout. Creativity. What else? Ideas. Innovation.
Thinking outside the box.
Thinking outside the box.
Meeting needs.
Okay, I'm going to go off all of that. And then what are we doing with those meeting the needs and creativity and ideas? We have to bring them to before we, and we're going to make money. I totally agree. If we're going to make money, what is it that the customer wants? Solutions and value, right? So that's really what we're doing in here. You don't always see it. It's funny because people stop and they're like, there's nobody here. Like on a day like today, it's awesome because people are buzzing about, but they're in their offices being creative. We have Blue Line Battery, for example, is here. Yes, they're in Rockford and they got funded in Rockford, but they're also here doing research. And he's coming up with a new material for carbon capture. We have CESA. CESA serves 74 school districts, but they're being innovative in their teaching concepts. So there's a lot of innovation going on. I grabbed one of the books. I read a lot of books in the value proposition design. So we're trying to create value. And as we go through change, as everybody has since 2020, we are looking at change here and how we bring innovation, I'm going to say, to our corner of the world. So I used to work at Milwaukee 7, that was 7 counties. It's huge. Sometimes people say Milwaukee 4 for a lot of sarcastic, funny reasons. But if we think just our area where we're from, how can we innovate, create ideas, create value? And it's not just going to be here. It's everywhere. And students and faculty. How many businesses are in the room? So you count because you're probably creating new product lines and new service lines. Right? How do I do that? How do I bring it to fruition? So thank you, welcome, and please come back. And Derek.
My name is Derek DeOria. I am the Executive Director of WCEDA, Walworth County Economic Development Alliance, and this event here is part of our, what we call our 3 Drivers series, and it's really just business education. We partner with all the chambers and the visitors bureaus, so you can see all the chambers that are participating on our program here. Really excited to have this discussion. It's certainly, AI is not new, but seems like within the last 2 years and last year, it's just exploding with a lot of practical AI tools. And so we wanted to do something for small and mid-sized businesses to just kind of give an overview of what's happening here, address some of the concerns in that, and I think we really assembled a good panel of speakers. So, everybody, whether you think it or not, we're using AI tools with, the email spam filters, with Siri, with chat bots when you're shopping online. So it's really pretty pervasive. But in terms of some business tools, there's a lot of good ones. I know ChatGPT seems to be the big buzz right now. I use that to help with some of the graphics and just putting some of the topics together. It's a great tool. It's certainly a lot more than just Googling things, and hopefully a lot of you are using that, and I know we'll talk a little bit about that. I wanted to bring in some of what the university is doing as well in terms of teaching AI to the students, and also what Gateway is, so we'll hear from them. A few businesses that are using it, and I think it'll be really good. So before we get going though, I wanted to take a poll. So on your tables, there's a QR code, or if you don't have QR access, you can just type in menti.com and the number there. I just kind of wanted to get a sense from who's here, some of the concerns that you might have, and thought it would be interesting to have this word cloud here. You can see a lot around safety, personalization, engagement, ethics, new customers, available tools, practical applications. So that's good. Since you have that out, we're going to do one more. You can keep putting that in. I think it'll keep populating. We can bring that up later too. But one other quick question, since we've got you guys there. That was a fun graphic that was created through ChatGPT. So I think one of we're just saying, it's interesting that some people are saying it's not, providing a return. Maybe it's, even if it's free, obviously you have some training involved or some time invested. So that'll be interesting too, to maybe when we get to our panel discussion. But okay, I think that'll keep, if you want to enter, you can still do that on your phones, but we're gonna get started here. So our first guest here, his name is Ben Childers. He's the digital director at Adams Publishing Group, APG, and I think marketing and using AI in marketing and communications is something that crosses all the businesses, small, large, different business industries, and something that has some wide appeal. So I thought Ben could give us just a nice overview of that space.
Good morning. My name is Ben Childers. I'm the digital director at Adams Publishing Group. I run an ad agency called Local Matters. We serve communities from kind of the Rockford area up to the Madison area. We've got a couple properties up in Marinette and Antigo, so kind of all over the state. We use some AI tools in our workflow, and I'll talk about some of them today, but really the thing that I want to talk about today is kind of a general overview of what the AI landscape looks like, what it is, what it isn't, what you can do in a small business capacity, what you should or shouldn't do, stuff like that. So. Went backwards. So let's first define kind of what AI is. We hear this a lot of people probably know, maybe some people don't. Is anybody here not using any AI? Does anybody here have no idea what it is? They're like, I hear this buzzword, but I'm not really sure how to do any of that. All right, we're all pretty good on this. All right, sweet. So let's talk about traditional algorithms versus generative AI really quick, just to lay some landscape down. Traditional algorithms kind of, and I'm oversimplifying heavily, so if there's any data scientists here, I'm sorry. Traditional algorithms kind of look like this, where you've got some input, some process, and then some output. The downside of this is that the input needs to be rigid. It's usually predefined what your input needs to look like. Your process is predefined, and your output is static. Compare that to generative AI, a little bit of a similar process. However, your input, and I'm sorry my words are being truncated here, but your input is whatever you want it to be. The process is whatever you need, and the output is typically new and iterative. So it really opens up the algorithm landscape so that people like you and me who are not data scientists can use them. So in general, we can say that generative AI is technology that creates new content. That content could be text, images, video, audio, code, programming, and a whole lot more. So let's talk about some of the AI tools that we use in our workflow, some things that you could use. I'll start by saying there's a lot of tools available, millions at this point, I'm sure, but a lot of them are mostly in the infant stage. And that just means, yeah, they're there, but sometimes they're useful, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're more of a proof of concept at this point. This is literally just Googling, hey, what are some cool AI tools for business? And these are some of the things that come up. Something I thought that was really interesting was that Originality is a platform, an AI platform that will detect AI-generated content. So that could be like, it'll tell if a student, wrote something with AI instead of themselves. And then the next result was undetectable AI, which is intended to make undetectable AI-generated content. So, infant stage. It's going to be this way for a couple years at least. So what can you actually use AI for today? I'll list some broad categories and we'll talk a little bit about them. Writing is a really easy one that I think transcends most workflows, most people's work. In some way or another, we need to write stuff. So Grammarly is a great tool for this, ChatGPT is a great tool for this, Otter is a great tool for this. We can use these things to write our emails for us. I literally go into ChatGPT and say, hey, I need to write an email to this client and tell them that they're being really needy right now and calm it down. And it'll do it very nicely and say, hey, due to our workflow, fantastic. You can use it to summarize emails and meeting notes, which is great. How often I get an email that's 6 paragraphs long, and I'll be honest, reading comprehension is not my thing. And so I throw it into ChatGPT and say, hey, tell me what this actually means. I'm not always doing that, but you can. Obviously, you can use it to write marketing content. That's a given, right? If copywriting isn't your thing, if you're like, oh, we need to, update our content on our website, we need to talk about these products that we have, or whatever it is, something like ChatGPT can at least get you started. Otter's really great because we use it to take live notes and summarize meetings. So you may have seen this if you're in like a video call with somebody. Otter's like a third party that will jump into that call and then live transcript everything that's said and then summarize it for you. So these are some of the tools that I think transcend most workflows that are really easy to use right now, are typically available for free. Another category that we use AI tools for, content creation. Stuff like Dahl, you can use to create text, images, or video. Gemini is similar to Dahl, it's just Google's variant of it. What's great about that is it actually integrates with your Google Drive. So we at our company use Google Drive for a lot of our stuff, and Gemini integrates with that, which is really nice. Photoshop, or the entire Adobe Creative Suite, I should say, if you're into anything graphic design-wise, has really, really good generative AI editing capabilities now. So you can, what you used to have a Photoshop expert to say, hey, can you, for instance, I'm a wedding videographer, so there's so much time I spend making people's, everybody's eyes open in the same picture, stuff like that, right? You get a picture of 10 people and one person's blinking here, one person's blinking there. Now you can just select their eyes and say, make their eyes be open. And so it's plain text. You don't have to know how to do these things to use it. Waymark is a really cool platform that we use. It's just turnkey video generation. So from the business perspective, you can quite literally drop in your business's website and it'll scrape all your logo, your colors, your style guide, your fonts, all the images and stuff on your website. It'll tag your Facebook, all these things. And then it'll make you a video about whatever you want that is branded to your business. So these are really fun tools that we use in a lot of our workflow that you can too. Another category that we use these tools for, data analysis and data stuff in general. ChatGPT does some. Consensus is actually a plugin for ChatGPT that we use, and Scholar GPT is another plugin that we use. You can use these for stuff like summarizing big data sets. So for instance, where's Melinda? There you are. So Melinda and I recently did a big survey of a lot of people in Melinda's circle for graphic design reasons, and everybody needed to provide a lot of input. We took all of those survey results, dumped them into ChatGPT and said, can you actually summarize all the responses for us? Now, we did have a human actually read through them to verify this because it's important, but it wasn't wrong. We use these tools to analyze sentiment. Oh, that's exactly that. And analyze sentiment and survey responses. And conduct research and cite sources, which is really interesting. Scholar GPT will do that. So from an academic perspective, when you need to actually have real sources for real things, Scholar does that, which is really nice. All these things live inside the ChatGPT platform. So you can use AI for programming, kind of. We do some programming in our line of work. We do things like build websites. We build some tools for those websites. So if there's any programmers in the house, building a website isn't really programming. But some of the tools that go into it are. So ChatGPT is great for this. Copilot is great for this. They can be trained on your systems. So if your company develops software or develops your own internal systems, you can actually train an AI model on your internal documentation and then have it write code to your specs and then work with your APIs, which is really fun. It does have obviously advanced programming knowledge and understanding, but if you're not a programmer, it won't make you one. I think that's really important to point out. When this first came out, we had a lot of people that would say, hey, write me a program that does this. And then they go, how do I compile it? How do I run it? How do I fix it? Right. AI in general we use for ideation. Again, kind of. This is mostly ChatGPT, but you can literally straight up ask it for new ideas. Be like, hey, this is what I'm working on. How should I go about it? You can use it like you would use a search engine. So, for instance, if you would use a search engine to say, hey, what are some tools I can use to solve X problem? ChatGPT might have a better answer for you. How many people have had the experience where you Google something and the results are full of paragraphs on paragraphs on paragraphs of text that you don't care about? A recipe is a really good example. You Google a recipe and every result is, well, my mother thought of this recipe and it meant so much to me in my childhood. And then we get to the recipe 3 paragraphs later, right? That's really annoying. The reason we do that is because Google has all these rules for SEO and content creators have figured out how to play those rules, so we call that SEO spam at this point. But it makes search kind of a bad product because we don't get to the answer that we want to get to. Well, stuff like ChatGPT really solves that because we just get to the answer and it's right there in plain text. We don't have to sort through the ads and the crap to get to it, which is nice. And truth be told, we use ChatGPT to get inspiration and find a place to start on a project. It's not going to do a whole project for us, but when you've got some kind of writer's block or some creativity block, it's great to just say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. What are some ideas to get started? Works a trick. There's several weaknesses in AI, and we'll touch on some of them. Obviously, we'll talk about a lot of them here today, so I'll just keep it kind of high level. In general, AI will do 80% of the work. You need to do the rest. You've probably seen at this point where people will plug something into ChatGPT, take the first response they get, copy, paste it, and send it. It's not that good. You have to have a quality filter on all the things that you do with AI. This is a screenshot that my mother-in-law sent me when ChatGPT was new. And she said, hey, I asked ChatGPT to make me a website for this cool idea I have. So it spat out this code, and I copy-pasted this code into a Word document. What do I do with it? It'll do 80% of the work, but you have to know how to do the other 20%. AI models have an error bias, and that's true with, I think at this point, probably all AI models. They're only as good as the data that they've been trained on, right? So a lot of you guys probably saw over the past couple of weeks, Google, with their Gemini product, had this issue where a user would type in, oh, show me a photo of a 1940s German soldier. And it would show a very diverse group of Nazis, right? Women, people of color, people that just weren't Nazis. Well, that's because Google, probably with good intention, had said, hey, make sure there's diversity in everything you do, right? What they were trying to solve was this problem before that happened. There was this problem where if you went to an AI model and said, show me a picture of a successful person, it would show you this, a white man. AI will confidently lie to you. And this is something that was a bigger problem when it first kind of came out. They kind of put some guardrails up to solve a lot of these things now, but still, it will confidently lie to you. You have to check facts. We probably all heard news stories about the lawyer that got disbarred before citing cases that didn't exist. And then when asked about it, he said, well, ChatGPT told me about it, right? Well, just made up cases because you asked it to, you know? So it will confidently lie. You need to check facts, especially when it's important. This isn't a, you know, free-for-all. This is a good example of AI confidently lying to you. You may have seen this. This was a media storm maybe a year or two ago. The amount of opinion that went up around this photo, people said, oh my God, I can't believe the Pope would, you know, wear a jacket that's a $5,000 jacket. I don't know. It's just a lie, right? So, security is a valid concern. We'll talk about this a lot today. Here's what I'll say about this. If you're in a really big organization where your products, your IP, your intellectual property is really, really important, you probably don't want to put any of it into an AI model. I've got a good friend that works as an engineer at a software company, a hardware company, and his company has instructed all their employees to never use ChatGPT or anything like it for anything work related, because anything you type into it now becomes property of OpenAI, right? So if I'm a big enough company that matters, that OpenAI would care about my IP, that's a security concern. Anything you type in any of these is becoming their property and they can see what you do with it, right? So that is to say, on the small business level, we, you know, in my line of work, we don't really worry too much about security. It's not like anything we're doing is so important that a big national company would try to rip us off for it or something like that, but still a concern. So where should you start? If you aren't using any AI tools at all, if this is completely new to you, or you're just like, oh, it seems like a lot, ChatGPT is where you should start. We'll talk about this probably a lot today. There's a reason it's kind of the flagship model at this point. You can do a lot of things, but a free tier is offered. If you want all access and you want the latest, greatest, it's $20 a month. From a business perspective, that's a no-brainer. And it's got a plug-in platform. This is the killer feature. For $20 a month, you can get access to its plug-in platform, and that plug-in platform is almost anything you can imagine, because it's a bunch of developers who have said, hey, here's a good AI idea, and ChatGPT makes it really easy to fulfill, and I can just put that plugin up on ChatGPT. So that's where I absolutely recommend you start if this is completely new to you. We're going to do our best here with audio. This may not work, but just as a foreshadow, what could a more advanced AI world look like? Let's talk a little bit about multimodal generative AI. This is where if I take multiple AI models and kind of string them together, right? So if I took a voice recognition model and paired it with a text generation model, paired that with a text-to-speech model, and then I gave it some sales training. I trained it like I would train one of my salespeople, and then I give it product knowledge of my business and my products. What would that look like? And I'm going to literally hold the mic up to the computer here, so let's see if this works. What I'm about to show you is a sales call. It's not a real sales call, but for all intents and purposes, it is. It is an AI salesperson who says they're from Apple, cold calling someone to sell them a product. Now, Apple's never going to cold call you to sell you a product, so in that world, it's fake. But it's a real AI model talking to a real person. It's not scripted, and they're actually throwing curveballs at it. So let's see if this works.
Hey, James.
I'm not into that.
Yeah, no worries. I hate calls out of the blue too. But I'm actually from Apple, and I saw you were checking out Vision Pro and were about to pre-order but left the page.
Yeah,
I was curious, what had you looking into potential? Okay, I can respect that. Can I just ask one question before you go?
Fine, shoot.
Why did you decide not to pre-order the Vision Pros? I saw you changed your mind last minute.
Because they are crazy expensive. I'm gonna get the Meta Quest instead.
I get it. But you saw what happened to Threads, right? Do you think the Meta Quest will end up being a better product than the Vision Pros? Or is it just the price?
I mean, it's mainly about price. I'm sure the Vision Pros are going to be better, but I'm not spending $3,000 on a pair of goggles, my man.
I feel that for sure. Definitely want you to make the best decision for you. But can I offer a different perspective?
I guess that was that.
Okay, so something that not a lot of people are aware of. If you take the route of using financing, Vision Pros only come out to a few $100s a month. So although $3,000 sounds like a lot, we can break it up to be more affordable for you. Does that by chance sound more palatable?
Interesting. How would that work?
Yeah, totally. Happy to give you context. Basically, you just fill out your details real fast and can see if you get approved. And if you are approved, it's much more affordable for you.
Okay, so what do we gotta do for that?
Awesome. Okay, I'll send it over now. Let me know when you receive it.
Okay, got that. That was quick.
Okay, sweet. Just fill that form out. Like I said, it takes 45 seconds. And once you're done, you'll have your name down for a pre-order of the Vision Pros. Can I help you with anything else?
No, that's awesome. I appreciate it, actually.
Perfect. I'm pumped. We got you on the good side, uh-huh. By the way, who do you got in the Musk versus Zuckerberg fight?
I think Musk, you got the size difference.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just glad that Tim Cook is not involved. But hey, I know you said you didn't have much time, so I will let you get back to it. Thanks for chatting.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, man. Have a good one.
Super interesting. That's it. The thing I'll say about that is that model obviously still has some flaws, right? It's got long pauses before it talks. It's got to generate what it's going to say next. It laughs a little weird. But you can see the direction this is going. So stuff like that I don't think is available to us on a small business level at this point. That company will offer you that service. It doesn't work that well yet, right? We just saw the best demo they could possibly make. And it was okay, right? But you can see in a couple of years where this is going.
So again, talked a little bit about artificial intelligence and what that is. Just I thought this was a good definition. I think some of the others may get into more of this, but there's also machine learning and deep machine learning, and that's what's involved in some of these more sophisticated AI programs. But in terms of like manufacturing, they talk about us being in the fourth industrial revolution. Really, the digital revolution and machines talking with each other. Pretty fascinating what's going on right now. There's so much capability in manufacturing. I know, even though Wisconsin is usually one of the top two in the country for manufacturing, even a lot of ours are not as far along with AI, but they're really working hard on that. So I thought this was just a good graphic to kind of show where they're at with that. And then I think this slide might be a little bit better here. Just thought this was interesting too in terms of some of the stuff that they're doing and where they're seeing gains using AI. And ultimately, at the bottom there, that block there talks about just driving down, zero downtime, kind of working for zero defects, sustainable manufacturing. It's heading there. People worry that, we're not going to need humans, but of course, a lot of this depends on, the maintenance, the setup, the programming. A lot of things need to work in conjunction, co-work with that. So don't see that going away, the human component, but seeing AI getting a lot more involved in that. And I think that's good for the US as well, because as we get more sophisticated with our advanced manufacturing, what we're seeing is we're bringing more manufacturing, bringing it back, from other countries, and I think we'll see more of that as we get more sophisticated with AI. So just wanted to touch on that, and then with HR, there's a lot going on with HR. I was hoping to get somebody from HR to talk a little bit about that. They weren't available, but you can just see, even from doing a ChatGPT, some of the apps that can be used to help with HR. Last thing I would say about HR, and of course there's so much to it, you could have a whole segment on this with that, but do have to be careful with some of the legal things and potentially things that get screened out that could be viewed as biased or discriminatory. So you definitely, if you're using some of these things, you're going to want to either consult with an HR professional or an attorney. But a lot of these apps can be really helpful and help you streamline some functions. So I'm going to introduce Dr. Andy Dahl here from UW-Whitewater. I thought it was important, especially being in Whitewater with this event, but just to kind of hear what you guys are covering with your students and some of the things, developments that you're seeing, and you know, obviously you'll probably talk about some of the apps that are here too, but I'd like to have Andy come up there.
All right, well, while they're pulling that up, as Derek mentioned, my name's Dr. Andy Dahl. You know, if you want to talk afterwards, I go by Andy. So, you know, essentially at UW-Whitewater, we've been teaching stuff related to AI for a few different years. And so you can see I'm an associate professor of marketing. I coordinate our MS in marketing, where a lot of our AI curriculum currently resides, and then I'm also part of the Google academic panel, so there's about 9 of us from around the world that work with Google on different, whether it's AI related or, you know, talk about search engine optimization, paid search, different initiatives that get brought into either agencies or classroom settings. I thought both the quote on the left here as well as the headline from Harvard Business Review, AI is not going away. Oh, I'm sorry, I should stay where the camera is. I'm used to walking around in the classroom. So, you know, I think both of these point to the fact that AI is not going away. You need to figure out how you can leverage AI to be a more productive worker. You know, there's the myth that AI is going to replace a lot of jobs. I would view it's going to reshape the work that you do, the nature of your work, allowing you to focus, or your workers to focus on higher level strategic initiatives. So removing some of those mundane, repetitive tasks that AI can, you know, do at a much faster pace, so that they can think at that higher strategic level. So, you know, what are we doing at the university as far as the undergraduate curriculum? We already have majors as it relates to AI. So the marketing, digital, and AI emphasis, in part, I think, talks to some of the stuff that Ben was covering in terms of showing students how to leverage it as part of content creation, ideation, looking at building entire marketing strategies as far as using AI, whether it's for data analytic purposes, content creation, and so forth. That we have a data analytics business major. You know, that's going to focus more on some of the algorithm model building, text mining, data analysis. That actually will launch in fall, so that's one of our new programs. And then there are, you know, I'll say at the moment, more one-off courses as opposed to entire AI majors. So some of them focus on machine learning and economics. We have a few different computer science courses across the university that, again, would get more into the machine learning, deep learning, how to build those different predictive models. And I'm sure there's more on the way too, right? You know, I think marketing, data analytics, really the College of Business and Economics has oftentimes been focused on the cutting edge and continuing to innovate the curriculum. And you can see there, this past fall, we held an AI-related conference with about 400, 500 undergraduate students from across the region, and they did some different AI training. So we trained them on generative AI primarily, but I'll also show a few slides that show XIQ, which if anyone is in B2B sales, it's a great tool that can help from a lead nurturing, prospecting, and also generating content for social selling. At the graduate level, again, a number of these programs have been around for several years at this point, so pre-COVID. So again, you know, trying to train students or, you know, lifelong learners in this course. So, you know, if you already have a degree and you are looking for kind of quick options as opposed to full master's degrees, we have 3 different graduate certificates that I would say would relate to AI depending on what your interests are. So again, digital marketing and AI one. We have data analytics, and then we have 2 different options from a cybersecurity perspective. So if you are concerned about the safety, security, data privacy, and other aspects, just not just AI, but other risks to your business, or you have employees that want quick upskilling training in these areas. We also have longer specialized master's programs. Again, you'll see they're repetitive. Essentially what it is you're getting additional coursework or training in these different areas. And then same thing for learners that want to focus on the traditional Master's of Business Administration degree. They get the general business core with a focus of 9 credits, which is 3 courses, either in marketing, data analytics, or cybersecurity. So again, there's a lot of things that I'm trying to cover program-wise at a high level that are going on, and we'll continue to integrate. Part of it is, I think there's a lot of questions around plagiarism, writing and stuff like that others have alluded to. Our approach in marketing is different maybe than other approaches across the university, but we encourage students to use this as part of all of their coursework. In part because if they don't learn it, they're going to be behind someone else, a worker that is familiar with this technology. But I think this kind of is similar to a slide that was shared just a few minutes ago, that the key thing I would keep in mind is that generative AI is maybe the one that gets the most hype because of how fast ChatGPT became the largest consumer-based app. But the reality is there's a lot of other ways that AI could be applied or have been applied by different businesses. Again, something that I would also keep in mind is a lot of tools like Jasper, which is one really focused on AI, generative AI for marketers. And it's about $39 a month. So it's not that much more expensive than the ChatGPT Pro version, but it does have hundreds of marketing specific use cases. So if you're not sure what the prompt should be, it already has many of those built out specific to that particular use case. But the reality is most AI might be tapping into OpenAI's language model and the training. And so many of the different things, including Microsoft's Copilot, are actually tapping back into what those models were trained on. Of course, Google's Gemini and so forth. As far as other things that we are showing students how to do, a lot of it is building conversational AI chatbots. So looking at whether it's the very simplistic, you have to, if you've ever interacted with a chatbot on a website, maybe it gives you a few choices to choose from. It's very restrictive in terms of the things that it can help you with. That's a very basic chatbot. The reality is there are more advanced conversational chatbots that, very similar to the call that Ben shared, can adjust based on what questions people are inputting into those forms and so forth. So again, there's opportunities from a customer service standpoint. On the sales side, I'll try and jump ahead and show a few things that you might find interesting there. But if you use Netflix, you shop on Amazon, that personalized recommendation engine is a key aspect of where you see AI employed that you might not even think about or consider the reality that that's also AI. Again, I quickly run through this. So XIQ, this is something that all of our undergraduate students and our grad students that are in the marketing program get access to a free subscription to as part of their coursework, and so they're getting trained on how to use this. Essentially, it primarily taps into LinkedIn. So again, I grabbed a few screenshots. What it allows you to do is search any person, any company that might have a LinkedIn profile, and it's going to give you insights into their personality and the key motives and drivers. So if you're in B2B sales or you have a sales team and you are preparing for an upcoming sales call, it'll tell you insights into that person's motivations, drivers, what messaging to utilize. And then it'll actually create a LinkedIn message to them. You can do a series of personalized emails, and it's really quite effective. It's, again, using generative AI to tap into that to create content. It'll try to identify different aspects. If you put, let's say that I'm John here, it will show your personality compared to the person that you're selling, so how well of a match you are or who else might need to be involved as part of the process. Again, I tried to grab a screenshot, so again, color-wise, it's not showing up the best here, and maybe, it might be difficult to read, but, I'm happy to share these slides. But essentially, this is what it generated based on my profile. And so it's showing qualities, tips of how to approach me if you're trying to sell to me. Again, the do's and don'ts. And, I will say it's fairly accurate in terms of what it's able to pull. And the more active somebody is on a social platform like LinkedIn, the more accurate it's actually going to be in terms of understanding that user. Again, it gives you predefined code, so figuring out or trying to figure out how to sell different products or services to that individual. There's a number of other use cases here as well. So, in this case, I asked it, how can I strategically align the benefits of generative AI with the work experience of, in this case, myself, to optimize the sales pitch, right? And within a matter of seconds, it generated 8 different ways of how to approach me, what the key messaging needs to be. If you're putting together a slide deck, what that should all include. And it pulled stuff not just from my LinkedIn profile, but I also have a consulting business, so it was pulling stuff in terms of the consulting approach that we use. And so again, it's searching the internet in a matter of seconds that in a traditional sales preparation may take days. I can speed up that process. Again, just some of the things that it's shown. So again, I think this is a great tool, especially if you are in B2B sales. That might be something to consider. There's a variety of different use cases and example prompts and stuff that the software offers. So that's one of the things that we're training students up. I thought I'd highlight that one because I know others are talking about other aspects of generative AI. So I'm going to skip past this, but because I think the next speakers are going to talk a little bit more about prompt engineering. I would just note that there are a variety of different prompt engineering frameworks. And so considering, what might be most appropriate for you, there's a lot of different things that you can focus on. And again, I'll make this available for those that are interested. I always like to tell ChatGPT, you are an expert in blank. So I always give it a persona or role that it needs to play so that it knows what part of its knowledge base to kind of tap into.
All right, just a quick introduction. My name is Perez, and I am the Dean for the School of Manufacturing, Engineering, and IT at Gateway. My campus is at my home office is at the S.E. Johnson IMET Center in Sturtevant. I've been Dean for about 1.5 years. Prior to that, I was an electrical engineering instructor at Gateway. So I'm not a data scientist. I'm an engineer, but not a data engineer. Although in my master's program, I did do a little bit with artificial neural networks for demand forecasting, which has been one of my, it's not quite a passion, but just something I'm really interested in, which is what we see a lot of the uses in manufacturing. Is that predictive analytics, but I'm not going to go too much in that. Just some information about Gateway Technical College. Is everybody familiar with Gateway? All right, so I can move on. So really quickly, just a few slides on what an associate's degree in AI looks like. And at the undergraduate level, the bachelor's, and in the graduate level, master's, that's where a lot of people are talking about. Why would anybody look at an associate's degree in data analytics or working with AI? I guess that it's fairly new to the realm of associate's degrees and certificates in that area, but I'll talk a little bit about the pathways that we're building so that students can get trained in the foundational and then bring it out to the workforce, or they can use it as a pathway to a 4-year degree and beyond. But these are just some quick slides about AI in general and how we can get an associate's degree. Basically, you're getting the fundamentals, getting an understanding of AI. Talked about programming languages, data structures and algorithms, object-oriented programming. Those are things that we're already teaching in some of our IT programming classes, whether it's software development, web software development. So those are what, if you want to be successful in data analytics and working with AI, you have to have that foundation understanding of programming. And as far as AI goes, these are some of the key areas: machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing. You talk about the prompts. People sometimes feel weird talking to Siri or talking to Alexa. How many have, just a show of hands, how many use Siri or Alexa in their daily life? How did you feel when you first used it or first started talking?
Awkward.
Awkward, right? I tell you, I still feel awkward talking to Siri. I prefer to talk to Alexa because we have so many different Echo devices around my house. You've got one in the family room, one in the kids' playroom, one in each bedroom. I've got it on my phone. So anywhere in the house, I can ask Alexa something. And usually it's, what's the weather like today? Because, you know, I can't look out the window, but I just like to hear her voice because she always says, "Good morning, Chris," and "Have a nice day," and stuff like that. And I try to be polite back and say, "Thank you, Alexa." And the funny thing is, I've got an 8-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old daughter, and they're growing up using it. They don't really use Siri because we're so ingrained to use Alexa. It's funny, but it's neat, right? It's like current student nowadays, they've always had technology. They've always had a phone, right? Or a computer. My generation, the richer people had computers. I had to go to my friend's house or the library to get to use a computer. But nowadays, people are growing up using them. People that have been around for a little while, we're just getting familiar with that technology. But it could be scary, but once you get the hang of it, it's fun and you use it. So these words here may be kind of scary to some people and to some students, but once you start working with it, it's okay. As far as practical skills and applications, so we talk about having hands-on learning. Gateway's really big on hands-on experiences. We have our labs at the IMET Center and at our various campuses. Data visualization. A lot of data analytics is being able to take a look at the data, be able to put it into easy to understand chunks and images. Talk about using certain data analytics visualization tools like Power BI and Tableau. And then the other important thing is ethics, because as we're programming our AI tools, how does it respond to prompts and things like that? How does it help you do your work? We need to have some way to make it think in a certain way, making sure that it's something that just because it can do it doesn't mean that it always should be doing it, right? So putting that in there. And just really quickly before I actually go through the curriculum, so the past few slides I used Google's Gemini to put that together. That did not come from me. I blame it on Gemini. But if you look at it, it makes sense. So it pulled from its vast resources and information and put together a nice PowerPoint. And that's just one example that people can use, whether they're working in education, HR, marketing, wherever. they can use that to develop slides, develop documents and things like that, but always review it. So we have a 2-year associate's degree program in data analytics that we just updated and modified to incorporate 4 AI classes. And we also changed the name to an AI data analytics specialist. And the blue is not coming through, but we have 4 data analytics classes that we've created a certificate, and those are databases, programming in Python, Data Analytics 1, and Data Analytics 2. So those are 4 classes that you can take to get the kind of fundamentals of data analytics. You get a certificate. We also developed an AI certificate with 4 classes. Again, programming in Python, intro to artificial intelligence, intro to machine learning, natural language processing, and also we have AI for computer vision as well. And you can get that AI certificate. It'll give you a good foundation as far as artificial intelligence goes. So those certificates are helpful for people that are working out in industry that just want to get a basic understanding of what AI is or what data analytics is. And if they enjoy it, they can continue on and get the full associate's degree. So I have my contact information in there. If anybody has any questions about Gateway or our programs, I'd be happy to share that information. We'll just do a really quick one example. We'll go and use Gemini. Welcome to Gemini. All right. Oh, it thinks I'm Leslie, but that's okay. Oh, we gotta move that over. Do I just have to move it over?
No.
Yeah. Not sure if there's a way to change the background. All right. Well, let's see if I can do this. What I want to do is make it, say, real simple. Let's say I'm an aspiring poet, and I'm just going to say, give me a couple of ideas for what you want to write something about. Just a couple words.
Spring.
Spring? All right. What else?
Sunshine.
Spring, sunshine, and
Love story.
love story. So I'm going to say, write a haiku about a spring love story with lots of sunshine. Oh, and baseball. Let's see if they can put that in 575 format. And then I'll read it if you can, if it's not going to come up there. So it takes a little time. So I said my prompt was write a haiku about a spring love story with lots of sunshine and baseball, and it came back with sun-kissed laughter rings, crack a bat, eyes walk across, love blooms in green grass.
I swim.
Perfect. Next up, I'd like to bring up David Aguirre, who's our Industrial Internet of Things specialist at the Gateway, and he'll help talk over some of the technical stuff.
Thank you, Chris. All right, Very good. Well, my name is David Aguirre, and my focus is on the industrial Internet of Things. Has anyone heard the term before? Yeah, very good. I heard we got some manufacturers in the room, so I'm very relieved about that. So I am a techie. My focus is on network and security for the college, but I also equally work with the academic side for new and emerging technologies. Not only new and emerging technologies because they are a buzzword, but also how they can go ahead and be implemented within industry. So back here you can kind of see the lab that I work in. My desk is right over here, and this is where we're kind of showing what lights out manufacturing is. So lights out manufacturing is essentially just that. You can go ahead and turn off the lights and let everything run without the need for human intervention. So we're going to kind of focus in on artificial intelligence and not just how we're using large language models, but now using different things such as vision systems and autonomy as well. So in this lab, we can kind of see a whole bunch of these different types of robots. We've got these yellow arms, and we've got a mobile robot back over here. So for those in the room that don't understand what the industrial Internet of Things is, let's first focus on the broader term of Internet of Things, right? So think back 10, 15 years ago, how many things would you be connecting to the internet at home? Isn't it the case that potentially our computer at most? Well, nowadays, how many things are we connecting at home? Can you think of anything else besides your computer? Fridge, lights, doorbell, your watch, right? And what are the benefits of these connected components or these connected devices? What would you say? Any benefits? Otherwise, they wouldn't be useful, right? With using an application, you're able to see further insights into your home. There are specific use cases, even though our smartwatches don't say that they're health devices, there are certain circumstances where they can go ahead and monitor your health and give you an idea as to what you need to do in the event of a potential heart attack, right? Now, what we do after we get that prompt is the decision of us, right? If we decide to act upon that data, perhaps change our lifestyle, go to the doctor to go ahead and verify that what our watch is telling us is true, is important, right? But now focus that type of technology in the industrial sector. You have all of these different connected components that are now connected to a network. We're extracting a large quantity of data, and now it's the decision of the manufacturers to use that data to make data-driven decisions. So that's really what our focus is on this lab, right? New and emerging technologies, and the fourth industrial revolution. So Derek briefly talked about the different types of industrial revolutions, but to make it very simple, there's been 4, and each industrial revolution is powered by the new and emerging technologies of its time. So the first industrial revolution was powered by steam. The second industrial revolution was powered by electricity, something we might take for granted, but we all use nowadays in our life. The third industrial revolution is powered by computers and robotics, autonomous systems, but now the fourth industrial revolution is powered by this type of technology, connected systems, machines speaking to machines, and a large quantity of data and making that data-driven decisions to be able to improve processes. But another focus is being able to prevent what's called downtime. So we know when a manufacturer is producing a product, every minute that a line goes down in a manufacturing plant, that's lost revenue. You can be losing hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in lost revenue per minute of downtime. So we know there's big money involved with manufacturing, especially teaching our students how to prevent that downtime from happening in the first place. So now we can kind of understand the importance of the industrial Internet of Things. But this is really a focus on artificial intelligence, right? So let's just focus in on one of these types of robots that we're using, right? So in the other slideshows, you can see at least 80% of the images when we talk about artificial intelligence, you'll see some kind of icon looking like a robot, some kind of robotic form. Well, artificial intelligence is being used in the field of robotics quite extensively. So this is a mobile industrial robot. In the factory environment, there are things similar to this called AGVs, or autonomous guided vehicles. And these have been around for decades, and they usually would follow a magnetic strip on the factory floor. You can think of these as like train, going from point A to point B, and vice versa, but there's not that much flexibility. Well, we have this newer technology that at its base, at its core, we have different types of sensors, such as the LiDAR units, we have 3D cameras, internal measurement units, accelerometer, gyroscopes, but also infrared and ultrasonic sensors. So what this allows the robot to do is now understand the world around it and not just follow a rail, so to speak, in the factory environment, but now have that flexibility, such as a vehicle, for instance, right? So if there's something in its way, it's able to go ahead and make a decision on its own to be able to still reach its destination. And that's where this robot is using artificial intelligence.
This is our autonomous mobile robot. It has a multitude of sensors that includes 2 LiDAR units, 3D cameras for depth perception, an internal measurement unit for movement and localization, along with infrared and ultrasonic sensors. As humans, we perceive the world through our various senses and then use our intelligence to make decisions based off of that information. Similarly, this robot perceives the world around it by using the combined data produced by its various sensors. It then uses artificial intelligence to make its own decisions. For example, here it decides the best path to reach its destination. I then run in front of its path, creating an obstacle, and the robot then again uses AI to adapt immediately, avoiding a collision while creating a new route to still reach its destination.
Very good. So you can see the point, right? So you have mobility, you have a robot, but now you are also incorporating AI algorithms for this robot to make its own data-driven decisions as to the best route it needs to take to reach its destination. So now, talking a little bit about those yellow robotic arms that we see very commonplace in manufacturing, you can see that this robot has a camera system at the end of its arm. And what that camera system originally will allow you to do is make the robot know where it is, right? So we use our eyesight to be able to perceive the world around us, while this robot uses a vision system to be able to do something similar. But apart from that, we use vision systems in manufacturing to either pass or fail a part. So in this instance, we're creating a 3 or 4-way valve out of either acrylic or aluminum. On the top, you can see, well, this is a pass, and then on the bottom is a fail. So we train these robots to go ahead and make a decision based off of the data that it has. But the difficulty is that what happens when the robot sees something that it is not familiar with? Well, typically it will just fault out, right? So this is where we can go ahead and use artificial intelligence to be able to train the robot more in depth and give it contextual data. So here it might be difficult to understand what we're seeing, but this is essentially a multitude of images that these robots can create. Right? And these robots can take, hundreds upon hundreds of images per minute. So now multiply that by a day, multiply that by a week, a month, or even more. There's just too much images for us to be able to go ahead and manually look at, right? We can kind of compare this to our phones. How many of you have 1,000 pictures on your phone, right? How many have 2,000, 3,000, easily? Truth be told, we're not going to look at each one of those images ever again, right? Some of those we will refer back to. And our phones also have that feature where you can just go ahead and search a specific topic, like a dog or a location, and then it'll give you specific pictures that you've taken at that location or showing that dog, for instance. Well, we're doing the same concept in manufacturing where now we're using all of these images that we're able to go ahead and produce from the manufacturing line, and then we're also able to go ahead and now feed those images in the training data, and then from there create an algorithm so that it can go ahead and now detect in more detail, right? So what does it do if it doesn't know what to do? Well, it makes data-driven decisions to be able to predict its next point or its next action item to go ahead and do. So what this allows us to do is, in the previous picture, we can see that there was a fail up on the bottom, or down here on the bottom, I should say. But that fail was just because the lighting was just too bright. And there was a little bit of grime on the block. Well, what the AI allows us to do is now go ahead and look at that contextual data and then make more informed decisions to realize that that part is actually perspective. Just the lighting was off a little bit, and then there was a little bit of grime on the actual valve body itself. So we're giving it, again, that contextual data. So on this last slide here, we just want to kind of focus in on how we're also using artificial intelligence to go ahead and do what a traditional data analyst would do. So typically, a data analyst would go ahead and pull a large quantity of data from these various types of machines, and then from there crunch the numbers and create graphs, create visualizations as to what exactly is happening on the shop floor. Well, what we're doing is we're working with this algorithm to go ahead and do that process autonomously. So these CNC machines go ahead and produce a large quantity of data. We're teaching our students how to extract that data, how to push that data into our servers, how to analyze that data manually so that they can understand what they're doing, looking for anomalies within the data to be able to prevent that downtime. But now what we're doing here with this AI algorithm is we're allowing it to go ahead and work autonomously, starting to crunch the numbers by itself, look for thresholds and look for what is normal, and then from there perceiving a potential failure before it happens. So what this allows the manufacturer to do is essentially predict downtime and then make a decision based off of that prediction ahead of time before that line goes down. So we also have a multitude of robots, a lot of different labs, a lot of different connected systems, and we're all collecting all this large quantity of data and then doing things with that data, and that's what we're teaching at Gateway Technical College. So this is just a small view into what we're doing when it comes to artificial intelligence. We're looking into mobility. So for instance, we're working on getting a quadruped robot, so a robot that walks on 4 legs, to be able to do exploration and go into hazardous environments that humans would typically go into in the past. And then allowing AI to go ahead and work as kind of a help for those autonomous systems to be able to make data-driven decisions based off of its surroundings. We're also working on a partnership with UW-Madison and the city of Racine for a Smart City initiative where we're working with a level 4 autonomous vehicle that's parked in our Racine campus, and we're doing a lot of research and testing in this field, and then looking at using AI to go ahead and not only detect obstacles, but now understand what those obstacles really are, right? Because you can imagine what happens when you're driving an autonomous vehicle and that vehicle is working autonomously, and then there's something on one side of the road, you've got perhaps a pedestrian, and then on the other side of a road you have perhaps an animal. Well, what would that autonomous vehicle do if it has to make a decision right there and then? What life is more valuable, right? So there's a lot of ethics involved as well, but these are just some of the initiatives that we're working on. All right.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that. I hope what you can see from some of our educational partners is that there's a lot going on in AI, and I think it was you, Andy, that said, the work is not going to go away, the workers aren't going to go away, but the type of work is. So I think it's really important to keep that in mind, and how can you upskill? I asked you about interns for some of the businesses, but I think in terms of Gateway and some of the certificates that they're offering, if you have anybody in your agencies that have an interest in this, that might be a really good way for them to kind of help you by getting a certificate. With Gateway, they stack those toward potential credentials. If they want to go further, they could, do that. So wanted to just at least get that out there so you're aware of what's going on with the educational institutions and the potential to work with them to help you in your businesses. So the next 2 speakers here that I'm going to bring up, they're in local businesses here, and they're utilizing a lot of what we're talking about every day. And our first speaker here that I'll bring up is Larry Gaffey. He's from the Walworth County Fair, and he's always been, I think you do a great job with your marketing and kind of, working with innovative technologies and that.
Is this your Amish moment? I guess it was enough for them, electricity and combustible engines or whatever they call it. And that was too much for them. They just decided that was their line in the sand as far as technology goes. And I think AI is one of those lines a lot of people have drawn in the sand. I remember when a calculator was invented. I'm old. We got our first calculator at home, and I was sitting in the easy chair testing it, making sure it was accurate. Like, this can't be right. Like, this is magic, right? So, and then math teachers complaining about calculators, and like, there's no reason to have a math teacher anymore. Got a calculator. Now they use them in school, and kids are advancing in math faster than they used to. Computers the same thing. AI is the same thing. I don't have to know how to build a car to learn how to be a good driver. Someday I won't have to drive it. So then I'll be able to do something else with my productive nature. So AI is a great tool. We use Placer. We use a lot of different AI apps. Placer is one that we've really embraced, and the tourism industry has really embraced, but also franchisees, hotels, real estate developers, all of that use Placer.ai. Placer.ai, there it is. The most advanced location analytics platform describing physical locations that people visit a lot. It's a machine learning tool. Okay, we use a combination. I didn't even know the definitions of machine learning and AI and all that stuff until you start throwing them up there. But I guess we use them all in combination. Here's an example. Anybody been to Elkhorn Rib Fest? Yeah. Okay. So this is the last 3 years of Elkhorn Rib Fest. You'll see in 2021 we had 70,000 visits, 80,022, 90,923. I can tell you, and how many visitors. So some people came more than once, how many times they came, and how long they stayed. What's funny is in 2021, after the COVID, whatever, people hung out a long time, man. They wanted to hang out. And that's been pretty consistent. But we got this data from Placer, and I can go back 5 years on our property and see who showed up. But not just who showed up, but how much money they make, where they live, what their interests are. Has anybody heard of Experian Mosaic? Experian is a company that you can get your credit rating from, but it's also one that analyzes demographic categories of people. And it's going to put every one of you in a slot. Your interest is this, your interest is that, your keywords that attract you are these things, those sorts of things. So we can analyze everybody that visits our place. And how they get this information is they do a large sampling of cell phones that come on the property. We don't know who they are, what their phone number is, but we know they were there. And they use machine learning to try and understand who they are. I think the sample in 2023 on those 90,000 cell phones came in was 10,000 cell phones. Anybody that does statistics, economics people, anything like that, that's a pretty damn good sample size, isn't it? So that's where these come from. So you go to Placer.ai, it's an app, and you basically build a fence around your property. This is the fairgrounds. And then it analyzes the cell phones that come into that property. Right? You can do this for your business. We do it for competitive businesses. We want to see how we're doing compared to other places. A coffee shop to compare themselves to a coffee shop in Whitewater or Elkhorn or any other Lake Geneva. I know where they came from, and we know where they went after RibFest. 65% of the people that went to RibFest came straight from home. 64 of them went straight home. So they had enough to eat, they had enough fun, they're ready to go to bed. The funny part is, LD's Barbecue. How many people came from RibFest with 13 of the best barbecue companies in the world, and they went to LD's Barbecue? My guess, LD, and I know him, he probably did a little advertising campaign. Maybe a little discounted this or that, who knows, good for him, right? But I know how many people came from Holiday Inn Express, and this list gets very detailed. I can tell you how many people went to the grocery store in Elkhorn after they left RibFest. Which, when you're looking for a sponsor, hey, we sent 3,500 people to your grocery store after RibFest. What do you think about sponsoring this thing for $5,000? Sure. So this place will also tell you that this is where everybody came from for RibFest. Okay? And you can compare that year to year to see where your growth is coming from geographically. So let's go back. So last year we applied for a tourism grant from the state of Wisconsin to market to a new, it's called GEM grant, to market to a new public, I guess you would say. And our grant was written to try and get more people from Racine and Kenosha. Well, we marketed to those people in Racine and Kenosha, and our traffic from those areas was up about 30%. And I was able to prove that to the state using Placer data. All right, here's another thing that we use Placer for. So, as I said, we can go through and see the demographic categories that our patrons are coming from, or who they are, and I can see where we excel and where we don't do very well. You can see here, here's an area, aspirational fusion. I don't know how to give these names, but we had 3.8% against the state population, and it tells you what your potential percentage is, 7.4. So we're not doing very well. We do well in a lot of places, but we're not doing very well for that. So who are these people? Okay. They don't make a lot of money, but they wish they did. They use credit cards a lot. A lot of them live in the city. They want high-class things. They want experiences, all of those sorts of things, right? So Experian Mosaic will tell you who they are and how to market to them. So here we bring in AI, ChatGTP. I don't want to go after the Experian Mosaic of aspirational fusion. What keywords might work to attract these people in our advertising? Because anybody advertise social media? No? Okay. I mean, it really works to do multiple ads, and you can use things like this to create different types of ads to different demographic categories and different geographies for that matter. So here's the keywords that Chat thinks will work, or Experian will work, to attract these people. Well, is Ribfest fine dining? No. Artistic expression? We have an artisan village. Cultural exploration? Maybe. Exclusive experiences? We do offer that at Ribfest. We do offer, where's the other one here? They're into travel destinations, brands, sophisticated taste, really not there. We're gonna have a hard time with this one. But if I was gonna go after them, I'd probably go after cultural exploration, travel destination, and well, that's it. So that's probably what I did. But I also use it, we also use it for areas that we do well. So we have a new country music festival coming in August. Has anybody heard of Neon Nights? That's coming? Okay. So we partnered with a group out of Ohio that run a Neon Nights festival. We found them in a weird way, but very successful, same genre music, classic country, and all of that. So it's in a market that's very similar to Elkhorn. It's outside the Akron area, near Cleveland. We're near Chicago, Milwaukee, in the country. They're in the country. Who went to Neon Nights in Ohio? I drew a geofence around their festival during those dates. I looked at the demographics that came through, and we're marketing to the same people in those same demographic categories for the festival coming to Elkhorn. It's just a practical use of machine learning and AI, and it can work for any type of business. So anyway, thank you. Everybody's been great. I'd love to hang out with all you guys and talk about this. So that's it, Derek. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it. So our next guest here is Mark Becker from Geneva 10. Again, local business. He's just going to, I just assume just to talk about some of the things that he's using, how they're using AI in a practical standpoint.
All right, yeah. Derek, thanks for having me. Yeah, so Mark Becker, founder of Geneva 10, and served as the CEO. I founded the company in 2009, and what we do is we are a omni-channel fulfillment center. So we're up in Thelen, Wisconsin, but we have warehouses in Charleston, Reno, and 2 in Phoenix, and a small one in Dallas. And our purpose really is we have 2 business models. One where we buy product, we take ownership of it, we resell it, mainly on Amazon, Walmart, through manufacturers, back-end websites, through their websites, but we plug into their back-end web portals like Shopify and Magento. And we buy the product, resell it, make a margin, or we serve as a 3PL where we actually don't take title to the product. We still use all the same warehouse management software, people, warehouses. We bring the product in from the manufacturer. They store it in our warehouse. We charge them for the storage. We then pick, pack, and ship the orders, and we charge them for the handling fees. So those are the two models. So the previous speakers did a great job explaining AI, so I'll just go a little into like the practical uses we use it for. So there's the quick, simple ones of like, I write a monthly newsletter. I quick get my idea out, I put it into ChatGPT, I say, make me sound like a Whitewater professor. It then does a great job of making me sound smarter than I am. Across the entire company, we're all using it to make emails a little better, make our content better. So we do a lot of, we create new items on Amazon, so we have to come up with 6 bullet points, we have to have a video. We'll work with our manufacturers to make sure we're creating unique content, and we use ChatGPT to do that. We also use it for our own marketing, where we're trying to come up with LinkedIn messages and Facebook, and it's just a lot easier to rely on some of these AI tools. What used to take employees hours is now taking us 15 minutes. So, we use it for all the kind of the stuff a lot of you guys are talking about. We use a note-taking AI, so we don't use Otter, we use one called Circle Back. But if you're on a Teams meeting with us, we most likely are using Circle Back to basically take notes, and at the end of the meeting it sends, quick, here's what each person talked about on the Teams meeting, and then here's the topics, and here it is organized by topics. So again, just saving the time of someone from being on the call having to take the notes. It does a really good job of doing it. The other one we use it for, which we haven't talked a lot about yet today, we use a software called Link Squares. So we have hundreds, if not thousands, of agreements and contracts that we're in. We manage all of them through Link Squares. So we actually generate our agreements through it. We use it to redline agreements, so it has a lot of functionality outside of the AI side of it. But they, a lot of their marketing says they are an AI agreement software. And the AI part of it comes in that if I want to make sure all my agreements have a certain amount of insurance coverage in them, so a typical thing in my business is you have to say, we're not going to do business with you unless you have a $5 million umbrella. Maybe that changes. Maybe Amazon says to me, now I want everyone to have a $6 million umbrella. Or maybe it can go down to $4.5 million. I can quickly go into Link Square, type that in, it's going to search all 1,000 agreements and tell me if one of them doesn't have it. What we mainly use it for is deadlines and action items in agreements. So every year, all my agreements come up for renewal. They'll have a 60-day termination or a 90-day termination or a 90-day auto renewal. Link Squares sends me, and it basically gives us that information. So we have a meeting once a month where we go through all the action items we need to take that month that are driven by the terms of the agreement. Before, we put all that stuff in our Outlook calendars. So I had thousands of just little reminders and calendars that said, hey, on January 1st, you've got to make sure you reach out to Dock and Bay to renew the agreement, or if you're going to put new pricing in, you're going to have to do that by December 1st because you have to give them a 60-day notice. So all that information now, we've saved the time of having to type it into Outlook. We've saved the time of having to make sure each week we're seeing what's on our calendar. And now basically Link Square does all that work for us. And we just meet once a month, we look at our dates, we address it all, and then we move on. Those are probably the 3 that we're using the most in every day. One of you brought up demand planning. So demand planning is probably where we are putting the most effort into. So we buy product. It's really important that we get that right. So, we're trying to buy 4 weeks worth of inventory, sometimes up to 8 weeks worth of inventory, and we're getting forecasts from Amazon. We got lead times from our manufacturers. Some of the product we buy domestically, some of it we're buying from China. very different lead times and how do you factor all this data in. In the past, right, it was all about the data, historical data. We put historical data into the machines and let our very simple algorithms tell us what to buy. And where that's graduating to for us is we started using Amazon's forecasting tool. So if you go to AWS, you can buy the use of the same tool that Amazon uses to forecast for all of their, distribution centers across the country. That tool, it was built by 200 data scientists and continually is updated, and Amazon has given basically all of us the ability to tap into it if we want. So we're using that tool, which is kind of doing just what I said. It's just looking at, we put a lot of data into it. So it's the vendor lead times, it's the last year's sales, it's trends and peaks. Where it's going to go, though, is pretty neat. And one of my slides shows we sell Ego lawnmowers. Is anyone familiar with the brand Ego? So lithium-ion batteries. We also sell power stations. So Generac makes like a gas-powered backup generator for your home. In the next 3 to 5 years, you'll see a lot of that changing to lithium-ion battery-powered backup home generators and in-home generators, in-home backup systems. A lot of those are weather dependent. So what our forecasting tools should be able to do, they're not quite there. We have developers on staff that are working on getting us to that place, but what it should be able to do is something as simple as say, hey, there's weather just off the coast of Florida. There's an 80% chance a hurricane is going to hit. If that hurricane hits, it should be able to understand the impact of the power outage and take a pretty decent guess that I need to send 500 more generators to my South Carolina warehouse a week before it actually happens. So currently we can't react fast enough. The hurricane hits and we constantly say, man, I wish I would have had the generators in South Carolina that are all in Phoenix. So AI really should be able to go get a lot more data that in the past we haven't thought about putting into our forecasting tools. And the neat part about it is I'm not really the one, kind of like, I can't build the car. So I actually also can't build AI to go pull all these pieces of data. But companies like Amazon that are getting access to their tools, they are building them. So we just have to make it work for our own businesses. So demand planning and forecasting is the one that I see in the next 12 months, we're probably doubling, if not tripling down on how we're using it to buy the products that we put into our warehouses. The last one, I think is the neatest one to talk about, but it's a little further out than probably 12 months. I know a couple of different companies, but one of them is called Prestige Paints. It's the largest interior and exterior paint company on Amazon. If you go on Amazon, if you type in interior blue, you get a bunch of different blue colors, blue paint colors, and Prestige Paints is the brand that we make. So if you buy it on Amazon, the order drops into our warehouse, we quick throw it into it, just like if you were at Lowe's, you do a tinting machine, we put the tint in it, we put it in a bulletproof box, ship it to your house in 2 days. It's a great process, it has not caught on yet. It will. But one of the big problems is people picking color has always been one of the hardest things for the consumer. If you really think about the process, you go from looking at this chair, saying, hey, I really kind of want to play off this off-white. You go to the store, you get the swatches, you come back to your house, you then try to kind of match it up. You think you find maybe a color or two you like, you go back to the store, you buy the samples, you put the samples on the wall. There's all the issues with the light and how color changes during it. You finally pick the color, you have to go back to the store, you buy the can, you come back and you paint it. There's not many buying processes that are that tough. AI should fix all of that. What AI I should be able to do, I think in the next 3-4 years, is I should be able to take a picture of that chair. It should go figure out this exact chair. It should say, hey, this was built by Ethan Allen. It's model number 1234. Ethan Allen knows the RGB in this, or in colors math. There is a code behind this color in this chair that isn't impacted by the light or where you have it in the room. From getting the RGB, you've now kind of taken out a lot of the guesswork. Because once you know the RGB, there's mathematically the right pop colors that go with that. So what I should be able to do is I should be able to take a picture of that chair and say, I want 5 pop colors that are mid-century modern for my living room. And then it should just give you those 5 colors. You say, I'm thinking a little more farm style. It should give you those 5 colors. So, where AI is going for us is we should really be helping consumers get to their decision on not just paint, but like all the products we have quicker. And we should be able to do it more accurately than we currently are doing it, because many of you are probably like me in that I've tried to match something to this, and I finally get it on the wall. I thought it was a great pop color, and it's not. So this kind of takes all the guesswork out of it, but in order to do it, what's kind of funny is when I launched Prestige in 2014, we started building data warehouses of all this data. I actually met with Bed Bath & Beyond. I said, hey, give me all of your designers. All your designers know the RGBs. Let's build these massive amounts of basically Excel spreadsheets and say, here's the model numbers, here's the RGBs in it. And then we were going to build these like trees. Basically said, here's all the pop colors that go with this. And we were going to basically build the algorithm or the tree to make the decision. What AI has done, and that was impossible. To get everyone on board to do it was impossible. What AI is going to do is all that work for us. So I just have to kind of know, I'm just waiting until it gets there, and then Prestige will be a household name, but we're like 2 years away. That's
great. Yeah. And could you just talk real quickly since you're up, and then I'm going to invite the rest of the speakers up, but just, about, the use of it, but then how are you training your people to use this technology? Are they learning on their own, or are you sending them out for training? Are you guys doing in-house training? I mean, how is
so I have about 300 employees. Most companies, I would guess, are like me, in that I have like 3 or 4 employees that are all in. And they're really the ones, they kind of took it upon themselves. They came to me and said, hey, I want to use Circle Back for taking notes. And so we try it, and we're pretty open about trying new things. Almost all of the AWS tool, I have a bunch of ex-Amazon employees that work for me, so they knew we could get access to this forecasting tool, and it cost us, I think it was like $15,000 for the year, but completely worth it for the amount of product we're moving. So a lot of the ideas and the implementation right now has come from our employees just asking for it. As far as training our employees and getting into it, I don't think I have a great answer of how we are helping them get any further, other than things like this. I mean, I sat in and there's 2 or 3 now that I'm going to go back and Google and throw it at my employees to see if it'll work for them. But really, it's more of my employees. A few of them are very techy, and they go find it for me.
Thank you.
I have a quick yes/no.
Elizabeth, yeah.
The Gateway and UW we have a great education system here, but I do have a question. Does your degree transfer to UW? Do we have articulation agreement?
For our data analytics program at Gateway, not yet, but one thing that we at Gateway are working on is making our programs more transferable. So we're working with certain partnerships with UW schools. Some of our programs do transfer to Parkside, UWM, not the data analytics program.
Yet, but that's on my to-do list.
Let's make it happen.
Yep, absolutely.
Right in the back there, yeah.
I have a question for Larry based on Placer.ai. So this is pretty cool. I do a lot of advertising when it comes to events, looking at geofencing, trying to figure out what locations people are going to be in. If there's a Placer.ai that gives me the geographical location and what they do afterwards, is there like a tracker AI that shows me their web activity after an event? Like, can I see if they come to my website versus a distributor website? Is there any sort of AI out there like that?
Well, I think sometimes, you know, I'm sure someone here will have a better answer than me, but I know that, like, we can track where our website visitors go after they leave our site, and I think where they come from too, right? So that's pretty, I think, what is it, Google Analytics, whatever. As long as it's set up right for you, but that'd be the first place I'd look. Does anybody else have any? That's it?
You know, not specific to your direct question, but I can't think of the name, but there is an AI tool now too, a little bit different use case, but perhaps relevant, that even if people are not like signed in as a customer on the website, the second a visitor hits, you can learn email, phone, all kinds of details, not part of Google Analytics, but basically so that it, in a way, is building a prospect list for people that don't actually give you their contact information. You know, I think there's a little bit of from my perspective, a privacy concern on that one. But that is one of the new AI tools that's out there. I think it's actually built into SEMrush.com, which is a SEO content marketing tool. And I just can't think of what the name of it is. Again, not exactly what.
Would that be compatible then? Like, as you gather those lists, is that compatible then with your standard like Salesforce CRMs, HubSpot CRMs to generate those lists?
Which specific other platforms it is currently integrated with, I'm unsure about, but I'm sure the goal is ultimately so that you can pull that list into whatever marketing automation software you happen to be using. Again, HubSpot and many of these also have AI built in. So if you have marketing technology, I would look to see what AI is already built in or iterations.
Thank you.
I think I know the answer to this, especially from some of these conversations. Are our phones really listening to us all the time?
I love this question. I get this question all the time. No, your phones are not listening to you. So we've all had this experience where a friend tells us about a cool product, and then later we see the ads for that product. Oh my God, my phone heard that conversation. No, your phone knows, or really big data knows, who you know. And your friend told you about that product because they bought it, or their friend bought it, right? It was already in their circle, and because you are connected through social media, you probably have their contact in your phone, stuff like that. Advertising models know what your circle is buying. And so a lot of times the advertising model gets ahead of your social circle, which is great. The classic example of this is the father that went into a Target, irate, goes into a Target store holding advertisement that was mailed to his daughter. His daughter's like 16 or something, and it's for baby diapers. How dare Target suggest that my daughter is pregnant? She's 16. He goes home to find out that his daughter is pregnant. She had been shopping online for prenatal, supplements and things like that. Target's advertising models had picked that up and then mailed her coupons for baby diapers. So the advertising models get ahead of real life sometimes. That's the real answer.
So that was a fun question. My real question here is, I'm thinking the big challenge is, especially using this for manufacturing, you're trying to do predictive maintenance, things like that, or even quality control analytics, is how you get the data into the system. Are there interfaces for that to make that easy?
Yeah. First, going to your question, if your phones are listening, if you just say, "Hey Siri,"
right.
and listen in the room to whose phone's answer, and then you get the answer there, right? But no, great question. So one of the big hurdles when it comes to an industry 4.0 is the extraction of data. I can't emphasize that enough, just because there are so many makes and models of machines out there that speak their own language, right? So that was one of the first hurdles that at Gateway we needed to go ahead and overcome as well. So one of the things that we try to do is we incorporate the industrial Internet of Things, in this specific circumstance, kind of a gateway device, and just look at these gateway devices as an interpreter, right? So you program that device on the edge to go ahead and speak the language of the machine, so to speak, and then from there push that up using a common platform or architecture that many different services use, and then from there you're able to kind of standardize that communication, at least in manufacturing, and that's really one of the key goals.
David's done a lot of work at our INET Center to have the connectivity of our CNC machines and our robots, so that all that data is being collected for use with our programs.
I think you have a question, Earl.
Yeah, all you kind of touched on was the whole thing about content creation. And one of the things that I see a lot of articles and stuff written on is artists that have their material, whether it's music, pictures, whatever, are showing up in ChatGPT prompts, right? And the issue becomes, those people are expecting and wanting to have compensation for their creation, right? So how do they, or is there software out there, if you will, that helps to detect, hey, wait a second, that's, that's a riff from my music, or hey, that's a paragraph from my book, right? It's not getting attribution, and I'm not getting any money. How is that being protected and managed?
That's a great question. If anyone else wants to add in, please do. But let's start by stipulating that the AI model is not taking a paragraph out of your book, and that's what makes it so hard to detect. Because really, the AI model, let's say one that writes books, is trained on every book that's ever been written ever. And then when someone says, "Hey, write me a book in the style of Arthur C. Clarke," you could see Arthur C. Clarke's artist stroke in that book, but he didn't write any of those words, and so it's hard to detect in that way, if that makes sense. So, truth be told, this is currently being fought out in the legal system. There's a lot of money in music, right? And artists are saying, hey, wait a minute, people are generating songs that sound like me, that I didn't write and I get no compensation for. And that's currently being fought out, so stay tuned. We'll see, but legal precedents are being set this year, next year, and so on. We just don't know at this point.
And some artists are actually using AI to generate content, like Paul McCartney did the Beatles thing. What's it called? Now and Forever, or something like that.
My Army buddy's a writer out in Hollywood, and as you probably heard, the writers went on strike here. I guess they recovered from that a few months ago. But that was the topic. I mean, there were other things, but it was AI was one of the main things that they wanted written into their union agreements, and they were successful. And I think they got successful because the big time actors sort of backed them in the end. But yeah, it's the music, same thing.
Yeah.
Questions?
I have a second question for Larry. Permission? Do you need permission for the Placer when you go to other places?
I don't know. I know it's available to me. If it's available to me, it's available to all my competitors and everyone else.
I thought. I just wondered if you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like.
Beg forgiveness?
Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
I'm not either.
Yeah, it's, they don't know who you are. They don't know, the exact address. They know pretty darn close where you live. But you're not really gaining anything private. And the service is available to everyone to check out their competition anywhere in the world, or to compare yourself to a similar business well, not in the world, United States. I don't know about the rest of the world. But if you want to grow a business or start a business or whatever, Placer would be an excellent tool for you to decide, first of all, pick out a geographic area that's similar to where you want to place a business, and then figure out whether or not there's enough people in that area to sustain it. Coffee shop or a restaurant, those sorts of things, hotel. I guarantee you Dunkin' Donuts uses Placer before they build a store. So does Taco Bell. You know, in Elkhorn, they build a Taco Bell, they put it in a weird spot, in my opinion. Why do they put that Taco Bell? What about Quick Trip? You think they use Placer? You damn right they do. And you think, why are they putting a store there? It's data, it's known. And look how successful they are.
That's great. I know we're kind of out of time here. I just have one more question because I know it's something that's come up a lot about security. And I think some people worry if they're using these tools and, you know, it gets into their own database or, you know, cyber hacks. And, you know, Mark, you said, you know, it's easy to replicate emails and voice and things like that to trick people. So just quickly, I mean, do you guys, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, we have a company we work with who just did get a pretty hefty amount of money diverted to the wrong bank account for through cyber attack. And so it's happening out there, and you have to have the controls in place to protect yourself. But I mean, the main one that you're seeing and you still see is just people getting into your servers, intercepting your emails, and tricking someone who has the control to send a wire. That's probably the number one thing to look out for, and make sure you have controls in place to verbally verify all wires, especially on the first time. In reverse, even if you're sending your wire information to someone, call them and verbally make sure they have the right wire information. But it's taken it even a step further. You know, if you're doing commercials or your voice is getting out there, I have a friend who, a business owner in Wisconsin, who actually had his voice AI recorded. They called his controller. They convinced them to send a wire with a AI generated voice of the owner. They had the controls in place to stop it, but I mean, I think those are the I think that's what you're seeing the most right now in the kind of the fraud side of this is the emails and trying to trick people on phone calls.
Yeah, and if anyone's concerned regarding security, you know, it's a discussion we can have for days, but just kind of thinking of good practices, right? So we get used to these different AI tools, and we start to get very comfortable with them. So just kind of keep in mind, right, that at the end of the day, whatever we prompt the AI is getting recorded somewhere, right? So you don't want to go ahead and add, you know, certain specific details that shouldn't be known, just like when we do any kind of postings on social media, right? So just some kind of thing to keep in mind when you're going ahead and prompting AI.
Yeah, I would just add to that. If you have proprietary information, I would not be putting it into these AI models because it can spit it back out. So Samsung was doing development of something, they put it into ChatGPT, it spit it back out to someone else, and so then it became known to the world that this is what Samsung was working on, right? So proprietary information, specific customer information, I would always look at what the policies, you know, so some of them specifically say this data is not going to be shared back to OpenAI or so forth. Look to see how your data is going to be used if you're inputting it to retrain or upskill their model, right? So know what you own, what the company owns when you're inputting stuff.
So if you're using Circleback, for instance, and you have maybe some intellectual property that you're talking about, then that's out there. So you don't necessarily want Circleback in all your meetings?
I haven't looked into Circleback,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't be able to, but in
Or Otter,
ChatGPT,
or any of them,
again,
yeah.
you want to look
Well,
at that.
Here's the thing, I mean, how many use Grammarly? There's a pretty good bunch of you. I get a weekly report, how I did, and in the 80 weeks I've used Grammarly, I've had 77,000 mistakes that's corrected. Grammarly is just an AI learning tool. And every email you write, every Word document, Excel, everything that you write, it gets, and it's theirs. And I've honestly given up. I mean, I don't want anybody to know my credit card number or my, all that kind of stuff. I mean, but it's too late. If, I know there are a lot of people that are afraid to do things because they're afraid of losing their data or losing whatever. Somebody's got it. And it's like somebody that doesn't have a smartphone. That was their Amish phone. They got their little flip phone with the little wooden buttons. And they just won't go to a smartphone, and then that's where they stop. Because they're afraid of somebody accessing their data. Well, guess what? In my opinion, and I may be wrong, it's too damn late.
Well, that's a good place to end.